What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Card Chatter with Refractor Jones and Bobbles and Ball Cards. Want to thank all of you out there who have listened, chatted, commented, subscribed, liked, what have you. We do really appreciate it all. And also, again, just a reminder, thank you to everybody if you have been able to donate or if you have just simply hit that subscribe button to allow us to donate for you. But to Mason's mission, again, such a great cause. If you've heard on the previous episodes, Mason is a tremendously tough young boy that has created Mason's Mission, which is a 100% nonprofit. He just is trying to raise some money to help out other youth and their families who also may be struggling with childhood cancer. So we are proud to be a part of Mason's lives, even if it's just a very small portion. Um, and so we just want to spread the word along, and hopefully, through us and others, we can help Mason achieve his mission and help out some other youth and families. So, how are you doing, Refractor? We are on Friday, sir. This is now episode 12. We are on a
12.
dozen with this one, man.
12?
This will be number 12. How about that?
Wow.
A month of having fun and just talking, talking, chatter, chatter, chatter. How about that? Time flies when you're having fun, huh?
Yes, sir.
So I think we've had some great conversations this week. Those of you, if you're just tuning in on this episode, we've touched this week with always a fun topic of grading, and we flowed that into um, vault services, and Refractor touched on a little bit about being a liquidator and gave a little bit of advice on some things he's seen. Hopefully, folks listened and checked into things with that. But how about we chill and relax and discuss a little bit about ourselves on this Friday episode and discuss why are we in the hobby. And what we mean by that is not necessarily, you know, a specific reason, but more so, are we in this hobby for business or for pleasure? And I'll let you start. You touched on being a liquidator. We know that just from posts, if anybody follows him, he has thousands upon thousands and boxes upon boxes upon boxes of cards. But is this hobby a business pleasure? And you could even do both. If you want to do both, that is fine as well. But are you in the hobby for business or pleasure?
Well, let me try to answer this as truthfully as possible because I was in it on the business end very early when I was younger because I had to feed my family. So yeah, I was on that business end and I did what I had to do to make ends meet. You know, young dad, young family, and you just had to pay the bills. And
Not
unfortunately, some
to uh,
cards.
not to interrupt you, not to interrupt you,
Mhm.
but we got a little bit of live action for anyone that wants to know. We're recording this just after 9 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, and this is kind of history being led in the making. So I just thought I would throw it out there. I just got the alert that Albert Pujols, and so this is going to be late because this is Friday episode, but Albert Pujols right now while we're talking crushed home run number 696 and moves into a tie with A-Rod for fourth on the all-time list. So I did not mean to
Sweet.
interrupt you there, but that's pretty important news, especially as a
Yeah.
baseball fan. And
Well,
so
being a
congratulations to Albert.
being a Cardinal and a Pirate fan, they're absolutely on my radar. Do you think he gets to 700?
Uh, well, I mean, he's been heated up pretty late, pretty good lately. The balls are flying a lot recently.
Hmm.
Trout hit like what 6 in a row. He hit one tonight. I think it's 6 games in a row. Little curious if maybe MLB noticed that guys were floating around the 30 mark and Judge was up in the 50 mark, and if they didn't maybe hit the humidor up a little bit or something, because the balls have been flying a little bit. Maybe the humidity from changing going into fall has changed, but let's face it. We'll get into that in another. We probably should have done that topic this week with the MLB rule changes, but we like to stick to the hobby stuff specifically. But anyway, do I think? Yes, I think he can. And quite honestly, it would be very heartbreaking if the season ended and he was at 699.
Yeah, that
I
would
would
be
have to tell
bad.
the man,
You'd
you got
have
to
to come
make the
back.
decision, but it would be very difficult for me to not Tom Brady this stuff and say, hey, screw the retirement plan. We're going back for another one. Because
Yeah,
I just think at that point, if you're sitting at 699, you got to come back. So,
yeah.
but
Well, it's kind of
anyway,
like Fred McGriff. Is it what Fred McGriff's at 495?
uh, I don't know one off the top of my head, everybody on the home run list, but
I believe
probably, yeah. I
I
mean, he's a popular one that people bring up. So,
yeah, I believe Fred McGriff's at 495. And that's terrible because he was such a nice guy.
yeah.
If
I
he
mean,
would
some
just,
people aren't chasing the record, but you got to think it's on Albert's mind.
yeah,
First off, he wants to obviously to pass A-Rod, which then would put him at 697, and being 3 away from 700, and that 700 club is special, you know.
hmm
So yeah,
sure is.
I would if he. I'll just say this for his sake. I really hope he does it, and I think
Yeah,
he can. So,
yeah.
but anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just thought that was pretty important news. I know it'll be late by the time people hear this because we are doing this on Saturday. And hell, by the time y'all hear this, he might already have 700. But anyway, we're recording this Saturday night. So congrats to Albert Pujols. This will be up on Friday morning at 8 a.m. So we'll see how things go. But anyway, back to what you were saying. I apologize.
Okay, no problem. So yes, I sold cards when I was younger, and working as a Beckett regional analyst, you know, I I had to sell cards. That's what I did. I was in the hobby, from the get go to, basically to try to turn and burn, make a little money here and there and stuff. But I always had the collector's mindset, from a young child. So I, I would much rather keep my stuff than sell my stuff. So and that all changed once I had financial security in my life, and that's why I hoard everything now, because the worst thing I ever did was sell all my my 52 Redmond tobacco. The they all had perfect tabs on them. They were all graded. They were beautiful. I found a giant lot of them in Pennsylvania at an antique store, and I bought them for nothing. And I sold them because I needed to, pay the bills. And at the time, I had to pay a mortgage, and you know, kids had to eat, and school clothes, and everything else. So that's why I enjoy my life now. That even though my daughters are still in school and all and everything, but I don't I don't have to struggle anymore to say, okay, hey, I need to sell this, and this to pay this bill. It's there, but and then they can have them. So I'm in this hobby for me, and to start with, and then when I get into the hobby more, I'm really into it for kids, because I get the ultimate enjoyment out of seeing the pure innocence of a child just cracking a pack and being so excited about what they're pulling. It just brings me back to my childhood, and it's something that I can never get back. And that's a big deal. When you can live through another child's eyes because of what they're doing, you get a little jealous. I mean, I do, but I'm so happy to be a part of the hobby, to support kids in the hobby, and to grow their collection, because we all know it was tough, when we were younger trying to be young collectors. And I can only imagine the landscape now, how it feels to them with the big dollars that are attached to cards now. It probably feels impossible to them.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, so, some of those kids that we see at shows or that are discussed, in other channels, videos or whatever, and they talk about, these kids out here hustling cards and stuff like that at shows today. They're not, I, I, they're enjoying sports cards, but I think they're enjoying it in a different way. And this is just what I've seen. They're enjoying it in a different way than what I remember as a kid. There are those out there that enjoy, like I remember going to a show and a young boy, his eyes were just, like he was drooling on my display case because I had some Kyler Yamamoto in my case,
Hmm.
and I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a hockey player, and
Hmm.
the kid kept looking at him, and he started talking to me. He's like, "That's my favorite player," and he was just so excited. And you're right. When to see the joy in their faces is like the most amazing thing. I was very impressed because it was a young boy, and he knew who Kyler Yamamoto was. He knew all about him, and he liked hockey. For one, a young kid, especially that likes hockey and knows all the players and everything. Because Yamamoto is not like a star. He recently was on the Oilers. So playing with McDavid and stuff and Draisaitl, but anyway, he just was like drooling over this card, and lucky, I had duplicates of it. He didn't know that, but he made a comment and he said, "I would do anything to own one of those." And I was like, "Kid, you just messed up. You would do anything, huh?" And I asked him, I was like, "Did you just say you would do anything for that card?" And he was like, "Oh yes, sir. I would do anything. I know I can't afford." And he kept asking me, how much, and it wasn't that expensive of a card, but again, young boy. I was like, "Huh? So you would do anything for that card, young man?" And he was like, "Yes, sir." So I opened my case up and I get the card out. It was graded, and I hand it to him, let him hold it, and you could just see on his face. And again, it's not even that was the beautiful part of it. It wasn't like it was an expensive card,
Right.
and just to see like his face light up, just holding it, and I was like, "All right, you promised me, and you said you would do anything for that card." It's like, I want you to go home. I want you to put that card on the shelf and I want you to enjoy it. But only if you listen to your parents and you do good in school. And he was like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yes, sir. You said you would do anything. So I want you to go home, listen to your parents, do good in school, and put that card on the shelf. And always remember that you said you would do anything for that card." And that was my agreement to him. And it was a simple gesture. It was an inexpensive card, but it made that kid's day. And who knows, I might
Hmm.
see him. Hopefully I have 10, 15, 20 more years in me, and hopefully I'm around at a show and he's 25, 26 years old sitting there with his own table at a card show, and he remembers who I was and remembers that card. You don't know. You don't know what that
Yeah.
one little simple gesture to that young child, what impact that could
That's
leave to the rest of his life. I might
yeah.
have
That's
turned a young boy, 8 to 10 years old, into a lifelong collector by giving him a card that I had multiples of that was very inexpensive. It's not hard to be
right.
kind.
Right. No,
Um,
that's why my biggest mantra is to give is to receive. And when you're a giver, you're always going to receive tenfold over to you. And I'm not saying because you handed somebody a card, you're going to get 10 cards in return. Because when you give to somebody, the joy and the pleasure and that hot warm sensation that you get down your body that says, you know what, I'm so proud that my piece of my collection gets to live on in his collection.
yeah,
We
and
can't take it.
I
We
mean,
can't take it with us, right?
right, and like I said, to be honest with you, that show I did okay on, but I didn't do great, sales or whatever. And but I didn't care because again, that simple little gesture, giving that boy that card and seeing his face light up that day, I could have made $1 million and it wouldn't have mattered. That was the
Mhm.
highlight of my show there that day. So, I completely 100%
It's
agree. Um,
it's just like my
seeing a
71
kid,
rows, you know.
what's that?
It's just like me having my 71 rows that was given to me, my first baseball card.
Oh
That's
yeah,
an untouchable card. There's nobody could ever touch that. I don't care how much money you have. I don't need your money.
right.
You
I
know, you
it
I don't want your
it
money.
it's it's just
You're
like
not
and
taking a piece of me away.
it's like and I have I know people can't see because we're just doing podcasts, but it's like right here in front of me, right here on my table. I have a silly card like this that somebody knew about the McJackie Robinson that we sent in. And they had this
Hmm.
card and they were like, this reminded me of you because you got so excited. And they're like, I know it's not a McJackie, but it's a miscut, vintage tops card. And so they
Yep.
gave this to me and I have it sitting right here. This isn't worth pennies, right? But it was special that they gave it to me. Um,
It's worth a
you
lot to
know,
you.
and people send stuff sometimes, they'll send it with their grading order or whatever. And I'm always like, I try to always make sure, even if it's just a letter, I still remember the first time I ever got anything in the mail was from Connor. And, Connor's a younger boy, teenager. Used to always, when I went live every night, he was the first one there. As soon as he seen that live, he was in there. Hey, Bobbles, how are you
I
tonight?
I re- yeah,
And
I
then he
remember
sent
him.
me a letter, and it was like, okay, for all the shenanigans and everything that go on in this world or YouTube or this hobby or what have you, to know that this young boy appreciates me getting on, talking about cards each night, that he took the time to write me a letter and send it to me. That meant a lot. And I still have every letter, any card, any note, if somebody like writes a note or something, any and I'm not sitting here ever saying I want people to send me stuff. What I'm saying is,
Hoarder. You're a hoarder.
even to me at 42 years old, someone taking the time to think about I might like that, or to take the time to write a note saying thank you or what have you, that's special. Imagine what that, and the reason I'm saying this, imagine what that does to a kid
Yeah.
when there's so much,
But
they can't go to the store and just buy packs or wax or whatever, nonstop. They can't go and buy a $10,000 Justin Herbert autograph or what have you. A simple gesture, they're like, oh, well, I just, they might not get a single card at that entire card show, but you just gave them one. They're
yep.
going to take that home and enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
So it definitely means a lot. And
What
I'm
you
not
do is
saying go
you
give your whole collection away and
no.
all
What
that.
you're
I'm not
doing,
saying that at all, but
yeah, what you're doing is creating good energy into the hobby. But more importantly, you're reiterating to a child that there is good in adults,
oh
because
yeah, yeah,
a child doesn't look at an adult and say, well, that's a bad person. A child is innocent. Once you break that child's trust, then he loses that innocence. And that's the most precious thing that a child has, because we all had it at one time. And it's the unfortunate thing that we no longer have it. We lose that faith in
right,
others and stuff. So anything that you can do to make sure that you prolong that, because it's going to happen, the better. And hopefully he or she will always remember you and always give to others, through their eyes, because of what you
right,
did for them.
right. So back to the the hobby, business or pleasure. So basically, what you're saying, you started more younger as a collector minded, but use the hobby for business, and now
Yeah.
you're in it for specifically pleasure.
Yep. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't sold cards in a long time. But that's
So
I don't want to sell anything. I can't even tell you how many DMs a day that I get on Instagram. And I even have some people that are just downright nasty that are like, why won't you sell it to me? I want that. I need that. And I'm like, look, I have to go out and hunt for this stuff just like you do. It just doesn't fall into my lap, you know, and
right,
and number two, I happen to love the cards. I don't. I have over 300,000, refractors. I got 2,000 in yesterday. I just picked up another 500 today. It. I enjoy them. I don't care that there's a bunch of commons in there. They're refractors. They're cool. I like them. It breaks up the monotony of the rest of my collection because I have stuff, all the way from the 30s. I have, everything from 39 up, but basically in in graded form, a lot of the star stuff. But I I don't want to be I don't want to be pinned in one little basket and say you collect this and this is all you do. I collect everything. I got over 500 game worn jerseys. I have tons of autographed baseballs. I got bats. I've got batting helmets. I've got gloves. Game used gloves. I have a ton of stuff, but it's because I love the game. So, in order for me to continue to love the game, I go look at that stuff. Once a week, like I'm at now. I'm at the world's largest top loader.
yeah. So I kind of probably would say, now you mentioned selling cards, and to speak on my behalf, and it might be what a lot of folks would say, I don't say because somebody is selling cards necessarily that they're only in the hobby for business or what have you. And so, I want to reiterate that for all the listeners out there, because I'm going to talk about like my part of it. And I know you mentioned that, so I didn't want people thinking, oh, well, he thinks that I'm just in this hobby for business because I sell cards.
No, no,
That's
because I
not what
mean
he meant.
that has to say, it says a lot about me as a collector. How I am. Even myself, who is anti-selling, had to sell his cards at one time. It just
Right.
it's just the way of the world. It was something that could make me some fast money so I could take care of my family. I had to do it. Did I want to do it?
Right.
Absolutely not. Do
So
I
on my
regret?
end, on my end, it started back obviously when I was around uh, fourth or fifth grade in elementary school. Almost at high school. I went to high school quickly there. Um, fourth or fifth grade in elementary. Well, no, it's probably like second or third grade, I guess. I was trying to remember the timeline because I started in private school for a couple years. I guess I started in elementary around first grade. Man, I'm getting old having to try to remember back all
You
that.
you started collecting when you were in first grade?
Well, I started in around 86. So yeah, I would have been around 6 years old. No,
I
it would have
was
been seven. It would have been second grade because I actually, the way my birthday is, and that's why I got put back into first grade when I started public school, because I should have been in second where I was in private school. But because of my age, they made me go back a grade and put me in the advanced classes or what have you.
that is so funny because that's exactly what happened to my oldest daughter. The exact same thing.
Yeah. So I should have been in second, but they put me back in first. But then in second grade,
Yeah.
I would have been six instead of normally 7 years old. Um, anyway, so it was around second grade, and I remember I grew up. Um, my mom, and my stepdad weren't. Uh, I, I don't know. I don't want to get into that whole thing. But they had money, but they didn't want to use it, I guess, so to speak. So growing up for, I don't know, till I was probably a sophomore, freshman or sophomore in high school, I guess. I actually grew up in a mobile home park. And it wasn't that we were poor, it was just my parents didn't want to buy a house, I guess. There was a roof over our head, there was food on the table. We didn't need a house, right? We had
Yeah,
a trailer. It was good enough, right?
it was a
So,
house.
right, yeah, exactly. But in that, I had a friend. His name was Kevin, and I could see his house, across the street, and through the ladies' yard across. His parents lived, about, I don't know, 100 yards away from me,
Hmm.
150 yards. Um, and me and him, we were the same age, went to school together and everything. Well, he collected cards too. And so that's kind of what started it off. And then I had another friend in school named Mac, and then a friend named Scott, and I've talked before, and this shows the impact on this through my life and specifically my childhood. I said my memory doesn't go back very far. I can't sit here and tell you the first pack I opened. I can't sit here and tell you the first card I obtained, but I remember my friends, from elementary school. And
Hmm.
I remember we were collectors. We had our favorite players. I still remember 1991. Um, I loved Mike Mussina. I played baseball, played youth league baseball. I pitched. I always wanted to know how Mike Mussina threw that knuckle curve. He was in Baltimore, so the Nationals didn't exist at the time. So like, I kept up with Brady Anderson, Cal Ripken. I think Harold Baines might have been on the Orioles then.
Hmm.
But anyway,
Chris,
you had
Chris, yeah, Chris Hoyles.
yeah. So
Yeah.
around that time, I was following the Orioles and everything, and but I loved Mike Mussina. He was the rookie in '91. But we had the players we collected. Emmett Smith, Jerry Rice, Bo Jackson, Barry Sanders, all those guys in football, and then '92 Shaq came around. I've talked. I was a huge Shaq fan. And so we had our people, we had our players that we wanted to collect, but we would
Right.
also trade. Kevin might have liked Frank Thomas, Scott might have liked Barry Bonds, and so we would
Hmm.
trade amongst each other. And I remember going to school and those big puffy jackets. I can't remember which one I had, but they had the starter jackets and everything else. I didn't have a
You
starter jacket.
you probably
I had
you probably had the you probably had the Charlotte Hornets.
No, I did not have the Charlotte Hornets.
Oh,
Um,
because
I wasn't
the
a
Charlotte
Hornets fan.
Hornets, the Hornets was the best selling starting lineup. I mean, starting the starter jersey.
Well,
I mean, the starter
I
jacket.
didn't have
Excuse me.
I didn't have a starter jacket. I had whatever the Sears catalog. Because for folks that don't know, at Christmas time, we didn't tell our parents from an Amazon wish list what we wanted. We sat down and had the Sears wish book, and it had
Yeah,
everything from clothes to firearms to Game Boy games to Nintendos to
ba-
everything, tools. Like, it was a big,
baseball
huge
cards.
wish book. And so I got whatever one that the Sears catalog, the wish book had. My grandmother bought it for me. But my point to the story is those jackets were popular. And one thing, they had a feature that was very useful if you were into the sports cards in school, and that was the
Hmm.
inside pocket. They had that inside pocket in there that you could fill up with all your top loaded cards and all of that, all your good stuff you could stuff in that pocket. And then in your book bag, you had your binder. You'd have a binder full of cards in your book bag and then your inside jacket pocket. Now, I legit was a little hustler dealer back in the day. I would trade cards, build my collection, but then I would sell cards, and I was like a little dealer in elementary school. I remember it distinctly. The bus stop, people were coming up to me. I remember we talked about this. I believe it was episode 1. The plastic candy canes, right? For
Yeah,
Christmas time. I
yeah.
knew where my mom would hide like my Christmas presents or at Easter or whatever. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. I would go and those tops to the candy cane were just on there with scotch tape. And you could
Yep.
pop them things off, and then I could go in there and look and see was there any good cards in there. And she would
Yeah.
never know. you know. So I would be at school, hey guys, look what I got.
Hmm.
And so it was just fun. There was a lot of passion driven in it. And the fact that I remember all of this and admittingly I don't remember a lot of things shows just how much that meant to me, right?
Right.
I
And that tells you how you can affect a child's life now.
right,
That's
exactly.
and that's why when us as adults, I know it's kind of taboo that you approach a child and all and everything else because we live in a screwed up world, unfortunately, and not all people are good people and all. But if you see a child with with a parent or grandmother, you know, I, go up and approach him. Talk to him, start having a conversation with mom or dad, and engage with them and figure out what they like. Maybe exchange, an email address, phone number, whatever. You could always send a little care package out to that kid, and I guarantee you that that child will never ever forget you.
Right. And you don't have to be at like the national or the Dallas show or a big show even.
No,
Go hit
any
up a
any
local
show,
show. You're going to see kids there.
sure.
You'll see kids there and if you spot a kid that has some interest in cards or something and you have something on you that they like, maybe pass it along. But
Yeah.
it
That's
my
that's one of those things that I do. You remember how I always, because every month I'll do care packages. I'll just send out
mhm.
a bunch of random packages out to people, and it's stuff for their kids. And it's generally when I'm watching on Facebook or I'm watching on YouTube where a parent will talk about their child and their kid likes so and so and this and this and this. So I'll go through all my star boxes and I'll pull out, 50 card lot of whoever it is, and then put it in the mail and send it out to them. I've never not had one not respond to my DM. So
Right.
what does that say to you?
Right, yeah.
People
Um
appreciate that, and
right.
and and,
And
and it's
and
something simple.
speaking on that and on this same topic and showing how it reflects, I don't remember exactly how old I was. I was probably 12, 11, 12 years old, maybe 13. I can't remember exactly how old I was. But there was a gentleman, he was an older guy, lived down near where my stepfather's mom worked. And I was there a lot helping her with things with, while she was working or what have you. And I did a lot of mowing grass and all that stuff when I was a young kid. And I know today people would think, "Oh, you were 12 years old mowing grass." Yes, in the 90s, early 90s, 80s, our parents made us go out when we were 10, 11, 12 years old. If we knew how to get a mower started, we were out there mowing grass and weed eating and stuff. I know that
Mhm.
probably is crazy to think of today, but it existed. But anyway, there was an older man, and I had a cousin that was 2 years older than me, and, this gentleman gave me and my cousin a shoebox that had cards, and this goes back into touching a child's life. Um, I don't remember every card in the box, I only got a couple out of the box, but I remember some of the other cards that were in there. One of them was a 1952 Topps Yogi Berra. Thought it was the coolest thing because I had never seen a 52 Topps card in my life, but
Nice.
the box had a 52 Topps Yogi Berra in it. It had a
That's a
55 Bowman Hank Aaron. And
ooh.
if anybody remembers, um, a card that I picked up probably 2 years ago that I was very highly excited about was a 55 Bowman Hank Aaron. And I had to reconnect with some pieces of my childhood. I've told the story about, again, starting around 86, 87 time frame ish, but I did have some years where I had a, periods of breaks in there and everything, and restarted my
Hmm.
collection twice and stuff going along the way. I kind of had lost touch with that 55 Bowman Hank Aaron. And I was at a show one day, it was a small local show, and this older gentleman had one for sale, and it almost spoke to me because it reminded me of my childhood and that 55 Bowman Hank Aaron. And to tell you how things were different back then, you know, obviously 54 tops is Hank's rookie, but that was considered his Bowman rookie because he didn't have a 54 Bowman. So I,
Hmm.
as a young child or young boy, 12, 13 years old, I thought I was, you know,
You were on
high and
top of the
mighty.
world.
I had a Hank Aaron rookie card, right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
you look in the Beckett magazine, because all of us did, and we didn't care and it wasn't in great condition, but that Beckett magazine, and I can still tell you to this day, and someone can look up and confirm, but in the Beckett magazine, it was $350. Okay. I still remember how much it was in the magazine. But anyway,
High roller, high roller.
oh yes. But I was the man because I had a Hank Aaron 55 Bowman. Quote
Yeah,
unquote
I bet you
Victor, the
were.
rookie card specialist, would kill me for this, but rookie card. Anyway, I got talked into trading it as a kid and by some of my friends. And I'll tell you, it haunted me. I'd always think about that card, but I never thought about buying one, and I don't know why. Maybe regret that kind of like I guess your Redmans that you talked about.
Hmm.
You sold them and you kind of regret it, and it like stings a little bit, and you just don't even want to approach it. To be honest, I
No,
never even looked to see how
it
much they were.
it
I
stings a
figured
lot.
if Beckett, I figured if Beckett said 350 back then, I probably wouldn't even be able to afford it today. To my surprise, things changed, and the card's actually more affordable now. But anyway, why am I in the hobby? Am I in it for business or am I in it for pleasure? I actually, as you mentioned, I do support my family with cards, but I don't, necessarily just sell cards or what have you to support my family. I've also, when I made the decision to do what I do, I had a deep conversation with the missus about it, and I told her one thing. I said, I cannot do this as a business if I am not able to enjoy it as a hobby. And
Yeah.
sometimes I will say, on the business side of it, it does get very difficult because I think I sometimes restrict my abilities to do it as a business because in the back of my mind, I want it to be done as a hobby. And it goes along with the saying mixing business with pleasure.
Hmm.
It can be done, but it gets difficult to do. You have to learn to allocate time for the business side of it, and you have to allocate time for the pleasure side of it. You have to keep accounts, like my bank accounts are separate. I have, multiple different bank accounts. That way, I know which one I'm allowed to use to spend money if I want to buy a card. I'm not pulling it out of something that is an account to pay bills with. So there's a lot of juggling involved, and it is a mental battle as well because something I struggle with now is, and I've had this discussion with many folks, but you know, there's folks that hit the national up to hunt in value boxes or even a regular card show. They'll go to a card show to see is there anything there that catches their eye that they know they can make some money on or what have you, and they'll buy it
Hmm.
and flip it and make some money. Well, I
Yeah.
struggle with that because when I'm at a card show, I'm so engulfed in, oh, I like this, I like this, I like this, and I'll see something or I'll have in the back of my mind, I need to keep an eye out for this because I think this guy is undervalued right now or what have you. And I know in my mind like who I should be looking for, But then when I go in there, I'm working on a budget of what I want to spend on things for myself and trying to twist the two to take the radar off of what I want versus looking for stuff to flip. I have a struggle with that. And I also look at it as, something, I know you do is buying collections. Well, I've bought collections and I enjoy going through them and piecing out and taking things I like and then selling things I don't want or I don't want to,
Yeah.
I have a lot of or what have you. So I also struggle with telling myself, why am I going to spend more money to buy something to try to then flip when I have thousands upon thousands of cards already that I need to figure out how I'm selling? So there's a big struggle there, and you need to decide, and this is for everybody out there. You need to really decide, do you want to do this as a business, as a dealer? Do you want to do this as a collector, a hobbyist, or for pleasure? My biggest pleasure is the friendships, the conversations like I have with Refractor or other folks in the group, JJ, Sean, JD, whoever. I talk to people all the time. Carlos, I talk to him all the time. That is a huge pleasure for me, and I don't have to constantly buy cards. I have, like, since the National, I've bought very little. I had fun. I spent some money at the National. I got some cards, a big box of cards that I wanted. So I don't feel the need to constantly buy, right? I can stay engaged other ways.
Yep.
But then there is that struggle. And most of my sales I try to use to put back into my hobby pile to be able to buy cards with. So I do
Yep.
try to separate the two, the business and the pleasure, but it does get difficult. Um,
I imagine it would. I mean, it's not. I I don't see how anybody can do it honestly and balance it well because it's just it for me it's murder because when I buy because I buy a lot of collections. When I
right,
travel a lot to go buy collections and it it's really tough for me when I show up to the house with a 16-foot box truck full of cards and I want to keep them all.
right. No, and to be fair, like, I mean, even look at Chris Sewell. You know, what is his channel name? Baseball collector, investor, and dealer, and then he says in that order. And I think sometimes the context of the word investor gets twisted around because there's people that again buy cards today and might try to sell them in a week that are calling themselves investors because they are like, well, I invested money into it to make money.
How about
Really,
we
if
just
you
call,
look
how about we just call it the Jeffy?
the what? Oh, nah, I'm not even going like in that route of it. I'm actually talking about a lot of people, the flippers, because that's essentially what more they are. They're in the stock world. Day traders are like your flippers, right? They're
Correct.
constant transacting,
Hit and
stocks and
hit
and
and
all
run.
that.
Hit and run.
They're
Yeah.
flipping, right?
Yeah.
But an investor in stocks is buying stocks with the intent of long term, a long term outlet, maybe risks involved because things could dip or what have you, but they're looking at it on a long term scale. And I think that's more of what like Chris is from, just things he's talked about and everything. I think he's a collector, but he has said that he collects specific things and, he's kind of content with his collection. I
He's a Cal
would
Ripken guy, right?
assume. What's that?
He's a Cal Ripken guy, right?
Right, yeah, he's a Cal Ripken collector. I
Yeah.
think on the investor aspect of it, I think he probably has things that he is sitting on as longer term investments. And then I know that he does buy collections, piece them out and everything. Well, it looks like we had a little bit of technical difficulties, folks, on this. I am trying to get Refractor back in here. I'll give him a couple minutes, but what I was going to say is, I think Chris, he buys collections and everything, and that's the dealer aspect of it. I think it is very well possible for folks to have fun, enjoy this hobby, and do it for pleasure, whether it's for the people, the enjoyment of collecting cards. um, the hobby atmosphere, so to speak. But I also think that you can also sell cards, whether it be to create a card budget or as a business side of things. I'm sure many guys that own card shops, they do it for a business, but they probably have a collection as well. So I think it's fair to assume that both have both sides of it. Um, and I got Refractor back. He ran away for a minute. I don't know where he went, but
I, I got, you know what I got? I got an emergency broadcast on my phone, and it kicked me off. It
oh,
said
okay.
it said
I was
it says
wondering.
we're
I was
getting heavy
like,
rain. We're getting heavy rain, and watch out, flash floods.
man, you're in Arizona too, right?
No,
Are you Vegas?
I'm in Vegas. Yeah,
Okay. So well, that's actually good for you guys because there's been like droughts and stuff out that way. So, but I do know
yeah,
when it rains out there, y'all do get the flooding.
yeah.
But anyway, I was just kind of going along. I told people we had a little bit of technical disruption and just saying, Chris is a perfect example, and he puts it right in his name. There's nothing wrong with being a collector, an investor, and a dealer and
No.
having the both sides to the game, the business and the pleasure. I would say that's what I am. And it can be a struggle. I'm just going to say that right out. It can get complicated. I also going into this, I actually just for transparency out there, I started this adventure December of 2021. So we are approaching 1 year now, but I've also kept the understanding and the open-mindedness. I have been a guy, and again, I mentioned I used to mow yards and stuff back when I was 13. I've always been someone that's worked. I started my first job, so to speak, at 13 years old. And it was my mom worked for a company that made resin figures, and they hand painted them. They were distributed to Hallmark stores and stuff. And the people owned a large property, and I would go over there and clean horse stalls and mow grass and stack wood and all this other stuff. So I've always had this
Ooh, you're
work ethic
dedicated.
with uh hey, I mean, as a child nothing was given to me, right? I didn't get an allowance. Again, I told you
Good.
my my
That's good.
my mom, my stepdad, they were too tight to even go buy a house, so to speak. And that's why we lived where we did, because it was cheaper, right? They were saving money. And I can't
Hmm.
fault them for that. It was their money. I was just a child. But anyway, it, it I grew. I was very close to my grandfather. That man had a very deep work ethic. Even till the last year of his life, he was out on a tractor in a hayfield. Um, it was tending to a garden.
Hmm.
So I've always worked. And it is odd for me to try to do this self-employment thing because now I'm home and I'm like, well, I got to get up and go to work. And I mean, here it is on a Saturday night, 10 o'clock, and I'm sitting here recording a podcast. Now, this is fun, right? But it's part of the hobby for me, and it all ties in together. There's
Right.
days I wake up at 5 in the morning. I'll
Sure.
come up here, start working on things, and I may not go back downstairs until, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night. Outside of just struggling the balance of business and pleasure, I do struggle with a balance of managing the time because I feel like
Hmm.
this is now my job and I always must be engulfed in it, because it's here at home. I
Hmm.
That's another part of it that's hard to do is detach yourself from your work if your work is right here at home. So
Yeah.
it's doable, but there are many challenges. And I will also say again, I am open minded and I'm very accepted of if I need to. I have zero problems with going right back out into the workforce. I didn't do this to try to be lazy or anything like that. I honestly did it because I was going to work, leaving my house at 6 a.m. I was working all day. I would get home, immediately start back into working on cards. I would take maybe 45 minutes to take a shower, eat some dinner, and then I was back working on cards until about 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. And it it was it was starting to strain a lot on me, and I had to make a decision which way I wanted to go. Um, and
Hmm.
so I was like, I've always loved cards. Let me try this. Let me see how it works. If it doesn't work, let's be real, there's plenty of places in this world that need help. So finding a job
Hmm.
isn't the most difficult thing in the world. And I talked to JJ. I talked, you know,
No.
I talked to several people about it. I was scared, not gonna lie, I was scared. But JJ also kind of, he kind of helped me and take my foot off the edge to make the jump, so to speak, because he was also one that told me, he was like, "Look, dude, you don't know unless you try, and you have this opportunity in front of you. You're going to
That's right.
regret it if you don't. If it doesn't work, you can go right back and find a
Hmm.
job, but you're not gonna know unless you try." And I know you're a big Gary Vee advocate and supporter of him, and he says some things like that too. Sometimes you just have to say, "Do it." Just try it. You're not gonna know.
Yeah.
Fear of failure is the biggest enemy for a lot of people. They're scared to fail,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
again,
I
it,
can tell you, I can tell you, there's plenty of family members in my family that and so okay, this is not to brag, but I have family members in my life that have never taken that plunge. Very intelligent, should have, done well for themselves, but they've always punched a clock and worked for somebody else. I
yep,
never wanted to do that. I always wanted to work for myself. I said if anybody's going to make that money and get paid, it was going to be me. And
yeah, and
fortunately enough, my homes are paid for. I don't have to struggle, but and I'm watching family members that are younger than me, or even like my father, they still have mortgages on their homes. It's like, man, that sucks, because they've killed themselves. And I truly feel they could have done more if they just would have taken that chance. If you fall, dust yourself off, get up. It's not a big deal.
yeah, and
We all fall. You got to learn how to walk,
that's
right?
kind of why I finally made the choice and the decision. Now, back to the decision though, I do find,
Hmm.
again, I said it, I struggle the balance of trying to keep this as a hobby and keep it fun, but then accepting that I need to make money off of it at the same time is very difficult. I 100% admit
Hmm.
that. I feel like I myself maybe hold myself back on what I could be capable of doing as a business side in the hobby because of the fact I am not one, we've said it on the show, we're not doing this show to try to make money. It's
No,
hard for me
somebody didn't make
sometimes
it.
to say it's okay to make money on this because it's my job. This is a business to many people, right? And that's
Hmm.
okay. If it wasn't a
Yeah.
business to folks, all the cards would be free and we could go get whatever we wanted from wherever we wanted. The LCS would just have come
Yeah.
in, pick one, take one, leave one kind of thing, right? It would just be a free for
Yeah.
all. So we
Yeah.
have to understand it is a business to this. It has to be a business to it. I do struggle with that though. And I know I hold myself back. I'm kind of my own enemy because it's hard for me sometimes to accept it on the business side of it. So I'm starting to
I
understand that
remember. I,
more,
I remember when
but
you. Yeah. I remember when you told me that you were going to do it, and then you said, "Look, don't say anything. Just keep it quiet because I don't want anybody to know, that I'm going to do it." and it got me thinking, and I'm like, I never asked you why, why you said that, but in my mind, I thought, I wonder if he's worried that that he's gonna fall and get dirty. I mean, because
It
it's the
wasn't that.
process. It's and it's okay to.
It wasn't that. It was honestly so many people have this image that bulk submitting, the grading bulk submissions are a profitable
Hmm.
thing. I didn't want folks to
Oh,
think
so you're
that's
so you're you didn't want to be the cash cow, so called.
well, I didn't want people to think that's what my job was being, because the truth is, on bulk subs
Yeah,
alone, it does not, like, I don't make that much. What I was doing is,
but
when
let
Platinum was sending me cards, I was reviewing those cards. I was putting them in all of their card savers. I was doing all the legwork, right? And
mm,
he was paying me to do all of that. So that's where, when I said I was going to work and then I come home and worked on cards, that's what I was doing.
yeah,
So I didn't want people to get it confused of, oh, well, he's making mad money off of book submissions, because I don't. On
but
the group stuff,
there's not. I wish you would. Capitalism is great. There's nothing wrong with that. That just means you
well,
worked hard for it, Bob. That's
the
it.
honest truth is,
And everybody should be so blessed to work hard, for their dollar. That's it.
well, and the honest truth is, I want to be 100% clear on this. We spoke on it. You mentioned it a couple episodes ago. We spend a lot of money to overnight ship down and back. If I really wanted to make money off this,
Hmm.
I would have to eliminate doing that. I would have to send it the cheapest way, both to and from. Because otherwise, what people don't understand is, over 50% of my margins get cut right off the top, just with what I pay in shipping. That's a lot of money that I leave out there on the table. So, for my business aspect of it, the group and
It's
the
a lot
group
of weight.
subs have been to help people out. In fact, I can tell you, the missus and me, we have all, we have paperwork and everything, because we got to keep track of everything for financial records. The last four submissions, maybe even the last five submissions, the margins off of them after shipping and everything would not cover 1 month worth of bills for me. That's not including
Wow.
all of the time involved, all of the gas going back and forth to the post office, all of that stuff. The group subs themselves
All right, let's open up
are.
we got to open up a grading company.
I'm being honest. Like, there's not much meat
Me
on the
too.
bone.
We're
Yeah, I mean, it's not much meat on the
Yeah, we're
bone.
gonna call it the
Um,
we're gonna call it the Bob. The
the
Bob.
Bob. No, but
Yeah.
I'm blessed to do the submissions, and I'll tell you why. If I wanted the submissions to be about money, and this is where I struggle, I could offer the pre-grade service. There's guys out there charging $3, $4, $5, right? I don't advertise a
Yeah.
pre-grade service. I don't advertise it. There's been two people ask me if I would do their cards for them, and the only reason I did them is because they specifically asked me to do it. Um,
Mhm.
that's where I leave money on the table, because I'm sure there would be people, I'll pay that extra money for you to look at my cards, but I haven't offered it. That's
They will
money I've
because
left
people
on
are
the
lazy.
table. Well, and they don't have confidence in
Yeah.
what they're seeing when they look at a card, or they don't know about the grading, or they're new. You said there's many new people out there. There is opportunity there. I could have made money doing bulk subs even more if I did all of it, if I
Mhm.
offered that. But instead of taking that, and as you said, I didn't want people looking at me as a cash grab. Instead, I told people, I want you to know what you're sending in. I want you to look at your own cards. I want you to understand, when you get that grade back that you thought was a 10 and it came back as a 9 or an 8, you remember looking at the card and said, okay, I wasn't sure what that, how that would be. But now you know. That way, the next time you buy a card, then you know, okay, that's going to get this grade. I shouldn't buy that if I'm not happy with that, right? So that's why I've always
Sure.
been that way, is because I didn't want it to just be about me making money. I wanted to do it to help people save money. That's what folks don't understand. Every card they send in, they're saving $7. $7 per card. I wished I made $7 per card. It's not even, I don't even think it's, yeah, it's not even half that. Like once all the fees and all that stuff done, it's not even close to half that. So, think about that a second. It, it's not as
Man.
near as much as people think it is. Um and that's why when
No
I
wonder you're
said,
so skinny.
oh, I'm not skinny, I'm bigger than you are. Guaranteed. But
Nah.
when
I,
to answer
I,
your
I,
question, to answer your question, I didn't want the image that, oh, Bobbles is making all this money off of group subs. Now he's quitting his job, and see, I told you group subs were a big money thing, because they're not. They are not at
nah.
all. You have to do a very large volume. You have to offer the pre-screen service and all of that stuff. In fact, to make it clear with everybody, when I give you a quote for return shipping, I pay for all the box tape. I pay for all my labels or paper or what have you that I have to do to print labels out. I pay for all that stuff, the ink for the printers, all of that, right? But the quote I give you for
Mhm.
return shipping is the exact quote, the exact price that I pay for your shipping label. I don't charge anything extra for supplies. I don't charge anything extra for the time it's taking to box up your packages and all that stuff. I legit charge what it costs for the shipping label. More money I'm leaving on the table. So, I
Yep.
know these things, and again, I try to do it as a hobby and for pleasure and to help folks out. Maybe that works against me sometimes, but at the end of the day, if I absolutely need money, I've said it before, there's a million ways in this world to make money, and I am not opposed to going back out and getting, back into the workforce. I enjoy what I do. I hope I can continue doing that, but I am not afraid of failure, and that had nothing to do with why I said don't say anything. Because
Good.
trust me,
Good.
I'm
Because
I'll
because I
fail at something today and I'll fail at something tomorrow. I love baseball, right?
good.
What's the most
Yeah.
what's the average batting average in baseball? Those guys fail more often than
Mm,
they succeed. So I have no
yeah.
worry about
They
failure.
fail 70% of the time, and you're considered an all-star.
A Hall of Famer. But no, and that's
Yeah.
things I think
Yeah.
a lot of people in this world are afraid of, though, is they're afraid to fail. And really, if you think about
Yeah.
it, nobody wants to be happy at failing, but you can learn many lessons that can teach you in
No.
life to succeed after you've failed. If people are successful 100% of their life, they're never going to learn any lessons.
Mm-mm. You can't be successful without failure. I mean, it's
Exactly.
just it
Exactly.
it
Because
it,
you have
it
to
is.
have something to look back on and know, okay,
Yep.
what did I do wrong? You have to ask yourself. So, no,
Yep.
that had nothing to do with why I said that at all. I just didn't want people to
Well,
think
good.
that this was more glamorous than it is, because I didn't want to leave that image on,
Mhm.
that bulk submitters make a ton of money or what have you, because that's not the truth at all. It's a
Mhm.
misconception that people have out there in the hobby, and it's not the case unless you're doing a ton of volume. And the most we've ever done uh, in one order was, and it was combined, like a combined order, was 1,700 cards. So if anybody thinks that's a lot of cards, there's guys out there they're doing 10,000 plus a month. Those guys are making money, but they also have employees. Me and the missus don't have any employees. I don't think that me and her could do 10,000 if we wanted to. it would be a lot of work for us. Um, I'm comfortable in that 1,500 range, but 10,000, I don't know that we could do that. So, but anything else you want to add to it? I think we both kind of touched on where we've been, where we are today. Um,
No.
I have fun selling cards, whereas you don't. That's one thing why this is great. We don't do things the same way. We have differences in our hobbying. I enjoy selling cards. I actually find it therapeutic sometimes, sitting down, even listing like cheap, 50-cent cards. I found that site, buysportscards.com, and it opened up a
Hmm.
gateway for me to sell cards that are under $1, and I find it very very therapeutic to just sit here and go through a box of cards and be like, okay, I want to keep this, but I don't need this, or I have 30 of these, I can let some go.
Right.
Um, and it helps, like, it just helps the hobby flow for me. It provides money for me to buy cards. That's another misconception. People think that, I can go out and buy stuff with doing group submissions. That's not the game I like to play. I want to play the game of I use cardboard. I like to call it cardboard cash. I use cards to buy cards. So it makes
Yeah.
the hobby a
I'm
hobby.
I'm the opposite. It's cardboard crack for me. Look,
Yeah,
it's
but I financially, and I'm not. This is why this hobby is great, because there's so many avenues. Financially, if I didn't sell anything, I would never be able to buy anything. You know, I just couldn't keep
mhm.
feeding out of the bank account and still feel confident with paying my bills. I sell things to be able to
Right.
buy things. So and
Sure.
that's
And
that.
there's nothing wrong with
There's
that.
no right or wrong way. There's no right or wrong way.
No.
So, but do you have anything else to add to this?
No. Love your collection and love a child's collection too. Help out a kid.
It the first time you do it, if you haven't ever done it, the first time you do it and you see their face light up, uh, you'll understand
It's a
what we mean.
Yeah, it's addicting. It really
Yeah,
is.
yeah. I mean,
Because you just
if
want
you
to
have
keep
the
doing it over
opportunity,
and over again.
yeah, if you have to, and it doesn't have to be anything big.
No.
Again, that card I gave that kid at the show that day, that was not an expensive card. It was a very uh, cheap card. I don't know, 10, 15, $20, something like that. But I seen on his face how
Hmm.
badly he wanted it. And he set himself up by saying he would do anything. And that allowed me to tell him to go home and listen to his parents and do good in school. So um, hopefully the young man is enjoying his Kaiser Yamamoto and listening to his parents and doing well in school. And hopefully somewhere along the line down the road, I bump into him again and he can tell me or show me a picture that he still has it up on
Yep.
his shelf. So, but anyway, I think this has
Yep.
been a great episode. Um, hope everybody has had a wonderful week out there. Uh, comment below. Let us know. Do you do it for business, pleasure, both? And there is no right or wrong answer. Um, do you do you have any experiences where you've passed along something and seen that joy on a child's face? um, but anyway, thank you all for listening. Again, please like, comment, subscribe, and as always, have a wonderful day, and thank you.
Take care, everyone.